Now we're going to talk about the Fresnel lantern. These come in a variety of shapes and sizes and different wattages. This is a 1000-watt lantern, but they go all the way down to about 150 watts. And if you go into film studios, you'll see them as high as 20,000 watts, at which point they're about as bright as an artificial sun. They all share the same characteristics. They have this lens on the front, which is a Fresnel lens. And as you can see, it's a series of concentric rings, and you can't see through it. It's an opaque lens. Now what this gives you is a beam which is a very soft beam, but very wide angle. Now as you can see, the beam has no clearly definable edge. It's a bright centre, but you couldn't actually say where the beam started or finished. We can increase or decrease the size of the beam by moving the reflector inside the lantern in relation to the lens. This is either done either by an adjustment on the back or underneath the lantern, depending on which type of lantern you're using. The other adjustment you have is by using a series of flaps which fit onto the front of the lantern called barn doors, and this enables you to cut off the edges just to keep the light off the side of the curtains or frame a piece of set or something like that. Now it's always useful to have a look inside a lantern just to see how it works. You remember earlier I showed you how to make the beam smaller or larger, and that's done by moving this lamp with the reflector in relation to the lens. So if you move it using a control either at the bottom or at the back of the lantern, as you can see it moves backwards and forwards, and that's what makes the beam change. Now the next lantern we'll look at is the Pebble Convex. They're not very popular in this country, but you'll find lots of them in France and Germany, where they tend to use them as their front of house lanterns in place of profiles. You remember when we looked at the Fresnel, what we saw inside the lantern was a mechanism with a lamp and a reflector that moved backwards and forwards in relation to the lens at the front. A Pebble Convex is slightly longer in the body than a Fresnel, and as a consequence it slides all the way back, which means the beam becomes very narrow, and it can come all the way down to the front, which means the beam can then be very wide. So the way to tell a Pebble Convex lantern is if you look at the lens at the front. And as you will see here, that what you have is a convex lens, and it's opaque at the back. So this gives you a beam which is harder than a Fresnel, but not quite as hard as a profile. So as you can see, when we turn this on, we end up with a beam which is slightly harder than a Fresnel. We can get it to go very, very narrow, and we can get it to go very, very wide. You shape the beam by using the barn doors on the front, same as you would a Fresnel. So hopefully that gives you an insight on how a Fresnel and a Pebble Convex works and what to do with it. The Pebble Convex is slightly unusual. You won't find many of them in this country. I mean, to give you an example of how popular they are, we have a hire stock and we probably have 300 to 400 Fresnels. We have 5 Pebble Convexes, and I think the only person who really uses them is me. And I like to take them with me when I don't know what I'm going to face. And as I said earlier, it gets me out of trouble quite often, because it'll do the job of a Fresnel when I haven't got enough Fresnels, but I can also use it to do some of the jobs that you'll find the profile can use. Thanks for watching.